Okay, Godzilla lovers, kaiju lovers, kaiju addicts group, big shout out from me, Ron, that you know me on Facebook, or my alias Joebizz34, where I normally review 1/6 figures, but I do collect X Plus as well, mainly the 30 centimeter series, but before I thought I was going to have a shot at getting the 30 centimeter Sanda and Gaira, which I'll get into in a minute, I did pick these up because I didn't want to miss out twice. And these, you know, on their own are great. You know, they are smaller in scale. And I wanted to show I did get Frankenstein that recently came out too, another first for X Plus, so I had to get him. Maybe someday they'll do him in 30 centimeter and maybe I'll trade up, but for now, this is the only X Plus version of him. And it fits in line with these guys. Obviously, he is the precursor to Sanda, and then from there spawned this offspring evil version of Sanda, Gaira. According to which version you watch. If it's the American version, these guys are the green and brown gargantuas, and you know, they're brothers. But the original version was Frankenstein, and this was Frankenstein versus Baragon, or aka Frankenstein Conquers the World, as people know for the title that was here. And he was believed to be dead, but then they did this movie, which could have been a standalone, honestly. It could have been its own movie, but it was sort of like a backdoor sequel to Frankenstein, and then they kind of said that this was Frankenstein's monster that transformed or kept growing from this dude, and then from DNA or from you know, DNA from him or blood or whatever formed this guy in the water. And then lo and behold, you have Gaira, which was a much more angrier and aggressive version of Sanda, so they ultimately fight each other, hence the title, you know, War of the Gargantuas, or Sanda versus Gaira, or Frankenstein monsters, Sanda versus Gaira, like I said, depending on which version, you know, you watch. But, you know, the basics of the movie is the same. You know, good guy, bad guy, tries to help him, can't do it, they fight each other. And it's disappointing, because this was a very cool movie. I appreciate it more as an adult. When I saw it as a kid, I didn't care for it as much, because as a kid, I didn't understand the different films and that there were other films besides Godzilla. You know, I knew there was King Kong and I knew there was Godzilla, and those were two of my favorites growing up. I loved King Kong versus Godzilla. And you know, even our King Kong from 33, or the remake in the 70s and so on. But, you know, when they would do like the Monster Week, like if you remember, like I'm dating myself, but I'm old enough to remember that when, you know, when I was young and I lived in New York City, there was no cable back then. There wasn't like a zillion channels or HBO or any of those like now. So basically you depended on what they called Monster Week, Monster Movie Week, you know, that would show on a local channel. I mean, we had 2, 4, 7 as our networks, our major networks. And then we had 5, 9, and 11 that were like local channels. 5 didn't become a major network until years later when I was a teenager, and then they became, obviously, now Fox. But back then, they were a local channel, just like 9 and 11. And these channels were the ones that a lot of times would show these type of movies like in the afternoon. So I come home from school, like starting at 4:30, they would show Monster Movie Week. And they would show you Godzilla clips, but then like every once in a while, they would throw a wild card in. They would be a Gamera movie or be this movie. And I'd be like pissed off because Godzilla's not there. Where's Godzilla? Why isn't Godzilla showing up to fight these guys? What's going on? As a kid, I didn't differentiate or understand that there were other monster movies made by, whether it was Toho or the rival company that made Gamera, that didn't use Godzilla at times, especially Gamera. I mean, to this day, people want to see Gamera versus Godzilla, or at least a team up, and it doesn't happen because Toho didn't own Gamera. So, you know, I didn't appreciate this film for what it was. Now, watching it later on as an adult and understanding that this was kind of its own thing and a spin-off of this one, I learned to really love it. And now it's like one of my favorites. And so, of course, I went nuts trying to find these guys, the 30 centimeter ones, that I missed out on twice. And I do have them now, which obviously you know by the box, so I'll get to that. But you know, when I saw them originally a few years ago, I had already missed like the Wonderfest release, and I missed the first run. This was the Diamond reissue ones that also were sold out by the time I kind of got wind of it and started collecting X Plus, and I couldn't find these anywhere. And then Entertainment Earth site had a pre-order, I guess, for another batch of these, the re-releases, and they, you know, I had it pre-ordered through them, and then all of a sudden they sent me an email saying they had to cancel it because they weren't getting any more in. So hence the hunt began, and it took me years to find them. And I did finally find them recently, and, you know, which is great thanks to a couple of very cool members on the Kaiju Addicts Club on Facebook. And, you know, shout out to Tyler, and shout out to, I think, Tony, which he goes by Iron on that group or on Facebook. Cool guys. Long story short, you know, they were involved. I bought these from Tyler, made a deal, but Iron was also looking for one. Tony, he was also looking for one, and he kind of like bowed out and let me get these. And then good karma, because then he found a set of Wonderfest ones anyway, so we both ended up getting what we wanted. So I'm going to do a comparison and show those badass dudes next to these guys, because, you know, they're older figures. Everybody knows them at this point. They've seen reviews of other people on YouTube, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time reviewing them. But I will say that these are definitely more detailed as far as the paintwork. Okay, you see the different shade in the head, the purple. These are the Ric Boys that you could put together, as you see, with the stands, so they look like they're fighting each other. And they come with interchangeable arms. And I'll show you them posed the other way in a minute when I compare them with the 30-centimeter ones. So here's Sanda, obviously the good guy, the more reasonable kind of like, let's work it out, but if not, I'm going to kick your ass. And then here's the very unruly, I just want to eat people and eat food and fight the military and destroy buildings, Gaira. So the base is beautiful, and there's actual footprints on the base, so you know kind of where to line them up and display them once you change their arms out and put them together. They also have another feature that I haven't messed with yet. You can open their heads up, and they do have eyeballs that move. So it looks like they're going the 1/6 world route, like with Hot Toys, with the purrs, where you can, like these figures, you can open the back of their head and change their eye positionings. So that's cool, and I would love to see them expand on that, maybe do that like in the 30-centimeter world as well, because I believe Frankenstein could do the same thing. So here's Frankenstein. Very detailed, you know, not very posable. I mean, he's kind of just in a museum pose stance, basically like a vinyl statue. You can't really move his arm or legs or anything. I don't have the Ric Boy of him. There was a Ric Boy that you can change his arms out with holding the girl in his hands or the person in his hands, and it came with, I think it comes as, you can get it as a set with the 25-centimeter Baragon from the movie that you can display with him. I didn't get that. I just got the standard because I just kind of, it was harder to find at this point and more expensive, so I spent money on these guys. So I just kind of wanted him just to kind of complement this setup here. And again, beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap them out, and I'm going to change the arms, and then so you could see them pose normally, which would be the way you would get them if you bought them separately as the standard versions. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are, we're back, and this is them kind of in their more natural pose. And like I said, you could turn their heads, lift them up a little bit. And I said you can mess with eyeballs. And here's his other arms where he's kind of in more of a attack pose. And then here's Sanda, which I've heard others refer to him as doing the Hulk Hogan pose. And, you know, again, you could turn his head. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but with this set and the 30-centimeter, Sanda always seems to be the harder one to stand on his own. I don't know why. Same thing with the 30-centimeter. I find that Gaira is always able to stand better. Maybe it's because of the positions they're putting him in. I personally think that the paintwork, like I said, on both these are a little better than the Diamond re-release of the 30-centimeter ones. But I like the poses better of the 30-centimeter ones, which I'll show in a sec. And I think that ultimately, you know, this is a little, I don't know, it's kind of very particular in a moment rather than a general. This is a little better as far as a generalized, you know, action pose, where this is very specific. And it still kind of looks like he looks like he wants to do the waltz or a dance with somebody. Or like I said, he's posing his muscles. I don't know. Now you can mess around with the other arms and maybe come up with different configurations of a pose. You know, ultimately this looks the best for this, and then the other ones kind of look the best for together as the fighting pose like you saw in the beginning of the vid. I wouldn't recommend really mixing and matching too much, but again, there are options. I mean, you could put the other arm here and he can have a slightly different pose. You could try to put the other arm here, then it's kind of like more like a straight pose, which kind of doesn't look right. But you can do that. So anyway, I would overall say for the 25-centimeter line, you know, there's definite improvements with the paintwork and the details. I mean, I do like the face paints and the different shades of green they have going on here, sort of like a sea green color mixed in. And, you know, I do like the mouth and the lips being, you know, very vivid as far as a different color scheme, and the face itself being more of a grayish, purplish, bluish color versus the hair on his head. So, and the ears, you can kind of distinguish the face a little better than the Diamond re-release. Now, I heard the Wonderfest 30-centimeter ones have a better paint job and slightly different than these. And I think they have the blood stains on him, on Gaira for the Wonderfest. So I've heard the paintwork is a little better with that one. I mean, I do some customizing in the 1/6 world. I mean, I could always maybe repaint them myself. So let me bring them to the table so you could see the difference. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, Frankenstein being in line with, I guess, don't want anybody to fall, but you see what I mean about Sanda. Now, also I want to mention that these guys do come with clear stands too, that you could use with these guys, but I'm not really going to display them like this. I'm going to display them in the fighting pose. Since I have both versions, I might as well utilize the Ric Boy stance for these guys, them together on this base, and then kind of keep these guys individual. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm not really concerned about using this base with them. They do stand, and again, when they're in the fighting pose on the other base, you don't really use or need these anyway. So, but for the sake of right now, I'll show you. So, like I said, these kind of go in line with these guys, and behind them you can see the towering 30 centimeter. So you can see the difference here. Now, for Sanda, even with the re-release, the diamond issue, the paintwork is definitely a little better. Look at that. And I just love the face. Overall, I think they're both cool, and you can't go wrong with either one, especially if you're a fan. I mean, get both if you can, like I have. But I think overall, I like the 30 centimeter stance. I like the look better. It looks more truer to me, a more badass kind of look. And as you can see, the height difference is not that much, but it's definitely there, you know. Now with Gaira, again, this one to me captures the look of Gaira way better as far as the face. Now, as you can see, the paintwork is a little more flat. I said again, at least with the diamond reissue, maybe not so much with the Wonderfest one. And you can move his arms and feet, you know, and not really the head, but you can like swivel these arms and kind of change the pose to a point. See, so and you could do it. You can do it with Sanda too, but not really as much. He's more restrictive. He's more in a statue pose. So you can change the arms and go up and down and change like his pose. Okay, and I heard that the Wonderfest ones may be slightly different too with their pose. I don't know. I haven't really compared really. I know the main difference is that on the Wonderfest ones, the blood stains are there. Like the blood, the battle damage, which I do like. I wish this had that too, but that's okay. So, I mean, like, again, I can always take some red paint and paint my own blood stains if I wanted to, but this set is such a grail at this point, regardless of which version you have, that I don't think I'm going to touch them. I think I'm just going to leave them as is. And again, you know, preference. I personally like the 30 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I want to give the 30 centimeters some love here. Just kind of get these guys out of the way, okay? I mean, you see the difference. Height-wise, there's definitely a difference between the 30 and the 25. And as you could see with the 30s, Frankenstein, I mean, you could still technically pose him with them. It doesn't look that off, actually, especially if he's supposed to be a precursor to him. You could say that he was smaller, even though he was still a giant. And then as he morphed or kind of transformed, you know, as he grew older and transformed into Sanda, you could technically say that he grew in size and became bigger. So, you know, looking at it now, actually, you know, he doesn't look that out of place with these guys. So I don't think you can go wrong. If you have the 30 centimeter and you want Frankenstein, you could still get away with displaying him. You know, I know there's been some discrepancies with the 25 centimeter, 30 centimeters. Some 30 centimeters are bigger, some are smaller. So, you know, you can intermatch a little bit depending on the figure. So there you go. But again, giving love to these guys. I have searched for these guys for so long. Finally found a guy that was selling them, Tyler. Thanks, a shout out to Tyler once again. So the Wonderfest ones actually come with a different box. They don't come with this, and I've heard preferences on that too. Some people prefer that one. Some people prefer the pictured version like here. And if you look here, there is a little difference. I'm wondering if this is a picture of the original release or maybe the Wonderfest, because his face paint up does look a little better there and a little different than the actual figure. So if you look closely, the green kind of blends in. But I don't know. They're still awesome, and for some reason, in person, more so on pictures, you don't really care. You don't really care as much. See, Gaira's still trying to fight Sanda, even when I'm just trying to do a video, man. Chill. Let's just get through the video, and then you guys can go back to fighting. All right? God, Sanda, what are you gonna do with this guy? I know. He's a pain in the ass. Anyway, all right, sorry about that. Got lost in my imagination there for a sec. Anyway, so that's it. I just wanted to show these guys. I wanted, you know, these are old figures, obviously, but they're still a grail. People love these figures, and they're rare. There's not many options out there to own these guys, whether it's these guys, the model kits, or, again, the new 25 centimeter ones. Here's Frankenstein. Looks great either with them, which I realized while filming this, that he does kind of look cool with them even as is, or with the 25 centimeter ones. And I recommend, if you're going to get the 25 centimeter, unless you don't care about the 30 centimeters and you just stick with the 25 centimeter line, then I would say you can't go wrong with the standard or the Ric Boy of the 25s. But I recommend if you're going to have both, or if you go for the Ric Boy because you kind of like having the more specialized editions, definitely pose them in the fighting mode. I think that's still a better look with the base. But here you go, the Frankenstein family right there. Awesomeness. Okay, guys, Joebizz34. I'll be back again with more X Plus reviews. I think I'm going to get back and do this. I haven't done these in a while. I've done a couple in the past, but I think with my collection kind of boning up and getting back into buying some of the newer stuff, and I got some more new stuff on the way. I got the Shin Godzilla, I got Jet Jaguar, all the 30 centimeter, and the Ric Boys for both, along with being 30 centimeter, that I'm going to be getting at the end of the summer. So I'll be back to show those and some more cool stuff I have. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace out.